Gladiator 2 is directed by Ridley Scott and stars Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Connie Nielsen, and Joseph Quinn. After his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome, Lucius is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find strength to return the glory of Rome to its people. I remember owning the original Gladiator on VHS. It wasn't one of those films that I watched a whole lot. As a child, it wasn't one of those films that I immediately go to have a fun day, but it just did not really register for me. So I never had that urge to always rewatch it when I was like a very little kid and I had a bunch of VHSs. But as I grew older and I watched the film a few times, I found myself appreciating a lot more, found the characters to be really engaging, thought the action sequences in the Colosseum were fantastic, and the characters and the actors who play them were really, I already said that. They were basically the most intriguing parts, especially Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix. Those two actors were really fantastic. And I always thought it was a really good movie, and one that did not really need a sequel. And here we are. We finally got Gladiator 2, and in my opinion, it is a fun, albeit less satisfying version of the original film. It takes a lot of the same elements that worked well in the original, but kind of goes away with the compelling characters and story. While you understand the main character's motives and why he is willing to put himself through hell through the Colosseum, it gets a bit complicated as the film goes on. And while I do appreciate a character's actions changing at times and the plot going in different directions, it sometimes does feel inconsistent, and it leaves the emotional weight of why he started doing all of this in the first place to be less impactful. And by the end of the film, I did not really register with our main character Lucius. I think despite the actor giving a really fantastic performance here, especially in the action sequences, I did not really care for his character in general because I felt like the story just changed a whole lot with him. And that is also the same with the villains. They constantly change up the antagonists here, and for a while you think it is going to be Pedro Pascal's character, as he's kind of the one who started the main conflict in the first place with our main character. But then we get to the actual emperors of Rome, and then we get to Denzel Washington and a bunch of other people pulling the strings in the background. There is no consistency in terms of its characters, in terms of what the characters want, their motivations, or why they're doing the things they're doing, or their place in the story. It's like the movie itself is trying to place all these characters through a game of chess, and the players are struggling to figure out where to place those pieces on a chessboard. That's the best way I could describe the characterizations here. Despite good performances here, they all just felt extremely flat to me. Even when you try to add in connections to the original film, it just rang hollow, and I just didn't find myself all that interested with the way the characters were portrayed here. However, the action sequences here and the way they're visualized are epic. I really enjoyed the fight sequences here in the Colosseum. There's a few moments where it does get really brutal and earn that R rating, and I really enjoyed all that stuff. I love how the movie still did not hold back in terms of its action, in terms of the way the action and how it's placed in the story and what it means for the characters. It can be fun at times, especially this one-on-one fight between our main character Lucius and Pedro Pascal. I think these two characters, when they fought each other like we saw in the trailers, I think was pretty cool, and I thought it did a really good job at highlighting these characters and what they want at this moment. But it felt like this could have been the great finale, but the film just kept going on, changing the plot a bit here and there, and it just got more complicated. I felt like the first half of the film was the strongest because it felt like it was the most focused. But as the film goes on and we get more characters trying to plan things out for their own agendas, it gets messy and all over the place. And that's why I think the film faltered, and it does feel like a bit of a drag at times. It felt boring in places, and it's like the runtime did not justify the kind of story this movie wanted to tell. It felt like it was trying to do way too much and had no idea what it wanted to do. That's the best way I could describe it. It's a really messy movie. All in all, Gladiator 2 is a film that I think was pretty well directed, though not to the same levels of the original or to the standards of the best Ridley Scott films like Blade Runner, for instance, or the original Alien. While there are some really good visual effects and action sequences here, once we get to the second half, the film had no idea where it wanted to go, and it left on a very unsatisfying note. And for that, I'm going to give Gladiator 2 a C. Not a terrible film, I did not hate it, but when you compare it to the original in its brilliant characterizations of Maximus and the action sequences, especially in the story itself and the emotional weight, it just did not live up to the original and felt like a lesser version of what came before. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.